Football is more than just 90 minutes on the pitch. It's about pride, history, politics, and the choices that shape the path to glory. And right now, as the road to the FIFA 2026 World Cup heats up, one of Africa's giants, Nigeria, finds itself preparing for a crucial qualifying match that, on paper, looks straightforward, but in reality carries layers of intrigue, strategy, and consequence. Officially, the Lesotho senior men's national team will host Nigeria in next month's qualifier, but the game won't take place in Maseru, Lesotho's capital, nor will it be held in Bloemfontein, South Africa, a venue previously considered. Instead, the match will unfold at the Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane, South Africa. And make no mistake, that choice of stadium is not a small detail. It could play a role in how this fixture is contested, and in the broader narrative of Nigeria's journey to secure a place at the 2026 World Cup in North America. Now, let's pause and think about it. The rallying cry from the Lesotho camp has been loud and clear. No to Bloemfontein. That wasn't just a slogan, it was a stand. There were logistical concerns, fan dynamics, and even questions of neutrality. Bloemfontein, though a capable venue, might not have offered Lesotho the kind of symbolic home atmosphere they wanted for such a high-stakes encounter. Instead, the Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane was chosen, a 45,000-seater arena with a rich World Cup history of its own, having hosted matches during the 2010 FIFA World Cup. For Lesotho, the decision is about control, comfort, and strategy. For Nigeria, though, the venue changes just another layer in a qualification campaign that has no room for slip-ups. Nigeria comes into this qualifier with the weight of expectation that only a footballing superpower can carry. With 6 previous World Cup appearances, and a squad brimming with talent scattered across Europe, anything short of qualification would be seen as catastrophic. The SuperEagles are not just representing a country of over 200 million people, they are carrying the hopes of a continent that sees them as one of Africa's most consistent and dangerous sides on the global stage. But history has taught us that qualifiers are never won by reputation alone. Games like this one against so-called smaller nations are exactly where qualification campaigns are built or broken. Let's not forget, the 2026 World Cup will be the biggest in history. Expanded to 48 teams, it offers Africa a record 9 automatic slots, with 1 additional playoff spot. That means, on paper, Nigeria's chances of qualifying are stronger than ever. But if you've followed African football long enough, you know that expansion doesn't guarantee anything. It's still a battle, still a grind across long distances, unfamiliar pitches, and hungry opponents who see every game against the SuperEagles as the chance of a lifetime. So what exactly does this match against Lesotho mean? First, it's about momentum. Nigeria cannot afford to start slow in this campaign. In previous qualifiers, the SuperEagles have sometimes stumbled against sides they were expected to beat. Who can forget the 2022 qualifiers, where a draw against Ghana at home in Abuja sealed Nigeria's shocking failure to qualify for Qatar? That scar is still fresh, and it's why every fan, every player, and every official knows that the SuperEagles must approach these games with ruthless focus. Against Lesotho, nothing less than 3 points will be acceptable. But here's the thing, playing Lesotho in South Africa is both an advantage and a challenge. On one hand, Nigeria avoids the tricky conditions of playing at high altitude in Maseru or in smaller venues where the atmosphere could feel suffocating. On the other hand, South Africa is a familiar terrain for many Nigerian players but also for Lesotho. It neutralizes some of Nigeria's natural advantages. The Mokaba Stadium will not be hostile like a typical away ground, but it won't exactly feel like home either. It's a shared middle ground, and in football, those small shifts in environment can influence performance. Still, the truth is simple. Nigeria has the quality. Just look at the roster. Victor Osimhen, Napoli's talisman and African Footballer of the Year contender, remains one of the most lethal strikers on the planet. Samuel Chukwueze brings trickery and pace from the wings. Wilfred Ndidi's presence in midfield offers stability, while Alex Iwobi has matured into a reliable playmaker. Add to that the youth emerging in players like Gift Orban, Victor Boniface, and the ever-improving Ademola Lookman, and you have an attack that can overwhelm any defense. On paper, Nigeria should dismantle Lesotho comfortably. But paper doesn't win football matches, execution does. That's why Nigeria must not underestimate this fixture. Lesotho may not boast household names, but they are a team with grit. They are used to being called underdogs, and that's why Nigeria must not underestimate this fixture. Lesotho may not boast household names, but they are a team with grit. They are used to being called underdogs, and that label gives them freedom. For them, holding Nigeria to a draw or even shocking them with a victory would be historic. And when you combine that hunger with the fact that they are playing at a neutral but familiar South African ground, the danger of complacency becomes real. Nigeria must approach this as though they were playing another African powerhouse, because in qualifiers, every point matters. Now, let's broaden the lens. Nigeria's qualification campaign is not just about beating Lesotho. It's about building consistency across the group. Every dropped point has consequences. In African qualifying, where groups are tight and margins are slim, one bad result can force a team into must-win scenarios down the line. And Nigeria knows that better than anyone after the heartbreak of 2022. This fixture, then, is about sending a message not just to Lesotho, but to the entire continent. A dominant win would remind Africa and the world that Nigeria remains one of the most feared sides in the game. But let's talk psychology. Nigeria is a country where football is more than sport, it's religion. Every Nigerian knows the feeling of gathering in living rooms, in viewing centers, in noisy neighborhoods, to watch the Super Eagles play. And every Nigerian knows the heartbreak of disappointment. The players feel that weight too. They know that when they wear the green and white, they are not just playing for themselves, they are playing for millions. That pressure can be a double-edged sword. It can inspire greatness, but it can also suffocate. Against Lesotho, Nigeria must channel that pressure into intensity. They must score early, dominate possession, and kill the game before nerves even have a chance to creep in. The choice of Mokaba Stadium, then, becomes symbolic. This is not just a venue. This is a stage where Nigeria must show that the ghosts of 2022 are behind them. This is where they begin to craft a new story, one that ends with the Super Eagles flying high in the United States, Mexico, and Canada in 2026. And for the fans, that's all that matters, not where the match is played, but how Nigeria plays. Looking at the bigger picture, Nigeria's path to the 2026 World Cup looks promising. The expansion of slots is helpful, yes, but the real advantage lies in the quality of the squad. There are few African teams who can boast the depth that Nigeria has. Even when injuries strike, the Super Eagles can still call on Europe-based talents to step in. Compare that to many other African nations, who often rely heavily on one or two key players, and Nigeria's chances begin to shine brighter. But again, depth means nothing if not utilized properly. This is where coaching comes into play. The tactical setup, the substitutions, the mentality instilled in the players, these factors could be the difference between a routine win and a frustrating draw. So, what should Nigeria's fans expect in this match? They should expect control. They should expect Nigeria to dictate the tempo, to create chance after chance, and to put the game to bed. But they should also be prepared for moments of frustration, because football is unpredictable. Lesotho may defend deep, close down spaces, and try to hit on the counter. Patience will be key. If Nigeria scores early, it could be a rout. If not, the game could become nervy. That's why leaders like Osimhen and Didi must step up, not just in performance, but in calming the team and keeping focus. Ultimately, Nigeria's chances of qualifying for the 2026 World Cup are very strong. With Africa's expanded slots, with the talent in their ranks, and with the lessons learned from past failures, this is a team that should not only qualify, but qualify comfortably. But qualification begins with games like this one. No slip-ups. No excuses. Just results. And that is why the Lesotho match at Peter Mokaba is far more than just another fixture. It's a test of Nigeria's readiness, hunger, and mentality. So when the whistle blows in Polokwane, it won't just be Nigeria against Lesotho. It will be Nigeria against doubt, against complacency, against the memories of missed opportunities. And for a nation that has suffered enough heartbreak in recent years, this is the moment to rise, to roar, and to remind the world that the Super Eagles are not just flying to 2026, they are soaring with purpose. Because football is unforgiving. It doesn't care about history or reputation. It only cares about who shows up on the day. And for Nigeria, that day is coming fast. The venue is set, the stakes are high, and the mission is clear. Beat Lesotho, take the points, and keep the dream of 2026 alive. And when the world tunes in, they won't just be watching a qualifier.